Hey everybody, so today we'll talk about the skeletal muscle structure and the function. So first we'll see the structure of a skeletal muscle, and then we'll see how it works. That means what? What's the function of a muscle? Contraction, right? So we'll see how the skeletal muscle contraction occurs. What's the mechanism of skeletal muscle contraction? So those two things. Structure of a skeletal muscle and the mechanism of muscle contraction. Okay? So first we'll see different types of muscle in the body. You already know there are three types of muscle tissue: skeletal muscle tissue, cardiac muscle tissue, and smooth muscle tissue. Okay, so those are three types of muscle tissue. Then we will talk about the functions of the muscles. Then we will talk about the structure of the skeletal muscle and the mechanism of muscle contraction. To understand the mechanism of muscle contraction, you need to know what is a myofibril. Myofibril is a thin filament inside the skeletal muscle. We will see the structure of a myofibril, which is very important to understand the mechanism of muscle contraction. Then we will see the contractile units of muscle. Inside the myofibril, you have the contractile units of muscle. Then you also have contractile proteins. Proteins form two filaments, two types of filaments, thick and thin. So we'll see what are those thick and thin filaments. Then we'll talk about cross bridging, neuromuscular junction, and a couple of clinical conditions. First, you all know that in your body, three types of muscles are skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle tissue. You have seen those under the microscope too. Skeletal muscles are attached to the skeleton, bones, okay, and help to move the bones. Okay, so skeletal muscles are attached to the skeleton or bones and help to move the bones or body parts. Skeletal muscle is voluntary. If I ask you to move your hand, right, you can do that. You can move the bones of the body. So voluntary. Okay, we are not sleeping. No, we are already
What medication I have to take?
Yeah, don't forget that, to take the medication. Okay, so cardiac muscle tissue. Cardiac is voluntary or involuntary? Can I stop your heart?
No.
Do you know what is voluntary? That you can control, right? Cardiac is what? Involuntary. Only you can stop it if you kill yourself, otherwise not. Right? So it is definitely involuntary. If you tell your heart to stop now, it will not listen to you. Okay? Which is good or bad? Good for you. Sometimes we think my life is useless, right? So, but it will not listen to you. Okay. Smooth muscle is also involuntary. Smooth muscle tissue is found in the wall of tube-like structures of your body. Tubes, like, esophagus, intestine, right? Ureter, you have blood vessels, arteries, veins, all those are tube-like structures. In the wall of those tubes, you have a smooth muscle. Also, in the wall of hollow organs, like stomach, urinary bladder, gallbladder, uterus, those are the hollow organs. So those are three types of muscle tissues, and only skeletal is voluntary. If you see different types of muscle tissues under the microscope, you already know how they look like. Skeletal muscle fibers are cylindrical, like this. Okay? So muscle fibers are cylindrical, and striations, thin lines are present. Okay? So cylindrical fibers, number one. Number two, striations. Number three, in each muscle fiber you see multiple nuclei, and these nuclei are not in the center of the muscle fiber but peripherally located, attached to the side. So we say that peripherally located multiple nucleus in each fiber. Okay? So that is how the skeletal muscle is under the microscope. Here you see cylindrical fibers, striations, and multiple nuclei peripherally located. Now, if you see the cardiac muscle is also, fibers are cylindrical, like a skeletal. Okay? So cylindrical fibers like this, striations are inside. So those two things are same as skeletal. Okay? Cylindrical fibers, striations are present, but couple other things are present in cardiac muscle which are absent in skeletal. What is that? Between two muscle fibers you have intercalated disc, a thick band, intercalated discs. Okay? So you'll see that. And another thing is branching. From one muscle fiber, branch arises and go to the other muscle fibers. Okay? So this is called branching. You didn't see branching in skeletal. Okay? So intercalated disc and also branching. And number three, usually single nucleus. Usually single nucleus. Okay, so that is the cardiac muscle, okay, tissue under the microscope. Couple of things are same. Cylindrical fibers both in skeletal and cardiac. Striations are present in both, but in case of cardiac you have intercalated disc, you have branching, and usually single nucleus, okay, not multiple. So this is cardiac. If you see smooth muscle, which is very simple, okay, the fibers are not cylindrical, but this is called spindle. Spindle shaped fibers. That means like your eye, both ends are tapered or pointed, middle part is wider, right? So spindle shaped fiber, no striation, no intercalated disc, no branching, a nice single nucleus in the center. So single centrally located nucleus. Centrally located nucleus. So it is very simple, right? No striation, no intercalated disc, no branching, right? Just a fiber and single nucleus centrally located. Okay. So now here you see many smooth muscle fibers are together. That's why it is difficult to know what's the shape, actual shape of the muscle fibers. So if I put many of them together like this, it will be like this. Okay, so that's how the smooth muscle is. Okay, makes sense? Put many cells together. Here. Okay, so now the special characteristics of the muscle tissue. Muscle tissue shows excitability. What is that? The muscle can be excited by stimulus. If I present a stimulus, the muscle will be excited, will respond to that stimulus. How? By showing contractility. So excitability is the ability to respond. Excitability is the ability to what? Respond to a stimulus. Like if I poke your muscle, hit your muscle, it will respond, right? How it will respond? By showing contraction. Make sense? So contractibility is another property of the muscle. How it responds? By showing contractility, shortening. Extensibility. The muscle can also relax and get elongated. When the muscle contracts, right, it gets shorter. When relaxed, it gets expanded. You can expand it. Elasticity. The ability to recoil. What is that? If I expand the muscle by pressure like this, it's like, you know, elastic thing you use in your cloth, right? If you expand by pressure, right, then when you leave, what will happen? It will go back to its actual shape, right? So that ability to recoil is called elasticity. Very simple, like your, you know, the elastic thing you use in your clothes, you can expand, right, and leave it, it will go back to its actual shape. So that's the elasticity. Okay. So the muscle shows those properties or characteristics. Functions. Of course, movement is number one. We use the muscles to move the bones, right, at the joints. We move the bones at the joints with the help of the muscles. Without muscles, you won't be able to move the bones, right? So, locomotion. Circulation of body fluid. The muscle in the heart, cardiac muscle, pumps the blood. You know that, right? Your heart pumps the blood by contraction and relaxation, right? So, very important. Also, in the wall of your blood vessels, you have the muscles, smooth muscle, okay, that can expand and contract the blood vessels, and that also helps to move the blood, okay. So heart is the main one that pumps the blood, but also the blood vessels can get constricted and relaxed, dilated, okay. So that also helps to move the blood, regulate the flow of blood. Maintaining the posture and body position, stabilizing joints. Remember, most of the muscles of your body cross the joints. For example, the muscle arises from here, from your arm, cross the elbow joint. The muscles arise from your forearm, cross the wrist joint, okay? So, muscles cross the joint, and from different directions, look at me, these muscles are going like this, these muscles are going like this, these muscles are going like this. So from all around the joint, the muscles cross and help to stabilize the joints. Heat generation. You know, in cold weather, shivering occurs, right? So that helps to produce heat in the body. Shivering of the muscle helps to produce the heat in the body. And that helps you in cold weather. If you go outside without enough clothes, shivering will occur to increase the body temperature. So that's a protection. Okay. So those are some important properties of your functions of your muscles. Couple other very important functions not listed here. One is, you chew the food, right? By moving the mandible. You speak, right? When you speak, you use the muscles, right? So swallowing the food, chewing the food, swallowing the food, speaking, all those are helped by muscles. Your breathing, respiratory muscles help in breathing. Okay? Respiratory muscles help in breathing. So those are important functions too. Okay, so now we'll see the structure of a skeletal muscle. Okay? If you see the structure of a skeletal muscle, for example, you see the structure of your biceps. This is the biceps. So this is the muscle, and if I cut the muscle like this, what we see, interestingly, so this is the section of the muscle spindle. We see inside the muscle we have many columnar structures, round, like this. Okay? These are called fascicles. So these are fascicles inside the muscle. This is the whole muscle, okay? And inside the fascicles, we again see columnar structures, round columnar structures like this. Okay? These are called muscle fibers. Okay? And then inside the fibers, we again see thin rod-like structures. Thin rod-like structures, many inside the muscle fiber. So thin rod-like structures, many. And these are called myofibrils. Myo means muscle, myofibrils. Okay, so you see, this is the whole muscle, and if you cut the muscle and see inside, you'll see many columnar structures. These are called fascicles, and inside the fascicles, you have again smaller columnar structures. Those are called muscle fibers. Inside the muscle fibers, you have thin filaments, rod-like structures. Those are called myofibrils. Okay? So this is from largest to smallest. This is the largest, the whole muscle, and then fascicles, fibers, myofibrils. Okay? So that is the structure of the skeletal muscle. So you see how beautifully the muscle is designed, right? Columns within columns, right? Big column, smaller columns, then further smaller columns, right? Then smallest columns. And this type of organization gives the muscle strength and flexibility. Okay? Give what? strength and flexibility of the muscle, both. You know, some big buildings have been designed based on this, like Sears Tower in Chicago. Have you heard that? It's a big tall building. It's columns within columns. Okay, so it has some kind of flexibility against earthquake. Okay, so it will have some kind of resistance against earthquake or those kind of events. So that is the structure. Now we'll see the connective tissue covering. The whole muscle is covered by a connective tissue membrane. So the whole muscle is covered by a connective tissue membrane that is called epimysium. Epimysium. Okay, so epimysium covers the whole muscle. Then the fascicles are covered by another connective tissue layer or membrane. Each fascicle has covering like this, and that is called perimysium. Perimysium covers the fascicle. Make sense? So whole muscle is covered by what? Epimysium, right? Then each fascicle is covered by what? Perimysium. Make sense? Then you see how beautifully again each muscle fiber is also covered by connective tissue membrane. So each muscle fiber has covering, and that is called endomysium. Endo means inside, so this is the innermost one covering the muscle fiber. That is called endomysium. Okay, so perimysium, whole muscle, epimysium, whole muscle, perimysium, fascicle, endomysium, muscle fiber. Okay, large to small. Okay. Okay. See, those are the three connective tissue coverings. These connective tissue layers or coverings help to protect the muscles. Just think that if any infection occurs here or injury occurs, inflammation occurs here, it will not let the microorganisms spread easily. Make sense? Covering. So they will not be able to spread easily. So protection. Here you see same thing. This is the whole muscle covered by epimysium, and then this is one fascicle. There are many fascicles. This is just one covered by perimysium. Should be somewhere. Perimysium, and then inside the fascicle you have the muscle fibers covered by endomysium. And now this is a muscle fiber. Okay, one muscle fiber you have taken out. There are many. You have taken out one, and inside the muscle fiber you have myofibrils, those rod-like thin filaments. Okay, myofibrils, many, okay, packed inside the muscle fiber. So in each muscle fiber you have many myofibrils. Now if I take one myofibril out from here, just take one dot myofibril out from here, how it looks like under the microscope. You need very powerful microscope to see that. So this is one myofibril, okay? One thin rod-like filament. And interestingly, what we see, this is myofibril. Interestingly, what we see inside the myofibril, same thing is repeated like this. Same thing is repeated. And each block here is called a sarcomere. Sarcomere. So this is one sarcomere, this is another, this is another, this is another. So many sarcomeres are attached side by side. Make sense? To form the myofibril. Is that clear? So other way, within a myofibril we see segments, right? And each segment is a sarcomere, right? So there are many segments inside the myofibril. Same thing, repeated. And this is the functional unit or contractile unit. Contraction is the function, we know that, of muscle. So contractile unit. Also you can say functional unit. Functional or contractile unit of muscle. That means unit means this is the smallest structure from where the contraction starts or begin. What is the unit of the living body? Cell. You know that, right? That's the smallest, right? So the unit of contraction is a sarcomere. That means this is the smallest structure inside the muscle where the contraction begins or starts. Now, the sarcomeres are separated by these discs, and these are called Z discs. Okay, so sarcomere is between two Z discs. Now, since this is a contractile unit, we'll see how the sarcomeres contract. Inside the sarcomere, you have two types of filaments like this. So this is one type of filament and this is another filament. Okay. So these are called thin filaments because they are thin, and these are called thick filaments because they are thick. Same thing in each sarcomere. Okay. So inside the sarcomere you have thin filament and thick filament. Okay? And these filaments are very important for the contraction of the muscles. These filaments have the muscle contraction. Okay? Remember. So now let's go back. This is a myofibril, that thin rod-like filament inside the muscle fiber. There are many. This is a muscle fiber, and inside you have many thin rod-like structures or filaments. These are called myofibrils. If I take one myofibril out and see under the microscope, I see many segments like this. Each segment is called a sarcomere, okay, and that is the unit of contraction or function. Now inside the sarcomere, you have two types of filaments, thin filaments and thick filaments. Make sense? Okay. Now we'll go further, microscopic view. How a thick filament and a thin filament look like under very powerful electron microscope. Now we are going to molecular level, very small molecules. Okay, first.
Excuse me. I think I left some headphones in here last night. Oh, awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. We'll see how a thick and thin filament look like under electron microscope. Very powerful. It will magnify many times. Okay. So first, let's see the thick filament. Thick filament is formed by many myosin. So these are called myosin. So many myosin units or molecules joined together, bundled together to form a thick filament. Each myosin unit looks like a golf club. You see, each myosin looks like what? A golf club. Okay. So many golf clubs are bundled together to form the thick filament. Okay, so this is thick filament. Now if I see one unit, myosin, it is a myosin, right? Looks like a golf club. It has head and tail. Okay? So each myosin has a head and a tail. On the head part, you have binding sites. This area is called site for actin. Here you have site for ATP, you know, that gives energy, ATP. And there is another site that is called site for ATPase. Okay? So on the head you have 3 binding sites. Okay? So that is how a myosin unit looks like. So many myosin bundled together to form the thick filament. This one. Okay? Now let's see the thin filament. If I take a thin filament and see how it looks like, thin filament is formed by double chain, 2 chains of actin. So this is one chain and this is another chain. So, and these balls are called actins. Okay, so many actin molecules or balls joined together to form how many chains? I said 2 chains. Okay, make sense? So 2 chains are together in thin filament. So this is thin filament. Okay, so that is the structure of a thin filament, and this is the structure of a thick filament. Okay, make sense? Got it? Okay, so let's see how much you remember. Okay, so this is a myofibril, right? Inside the myofibril you see segments, many, right? Each segment is the sarcomere, which is the unit of contraction. Is it clear? What happens, you see, when muscle contraction starts, this sarcomere within the myofibril, all these sarcomeres get shorter at the same time. So this one will get shorter like this one will get shorter like this, like this, like this. So Z discs come closer to each other. Make sense? So that makes the myofibrils short. Now, myofibrils are inside the muscle fibers, right? Many myofibrils inside the muscle fiber. So when all myofibrils get short, at the same time, whole muscle fiber gets short, right? And inside the muscle fascicle, you have many muscle fibers. So when all muscle fibers get short, fascicles get short, right? And when all fascicles get short, the whole muscle contracts, gets short, right? Because fascicles are inside the muscle. Okay, so that's how the contraction starts. The Z discs start to come close to each other. That shortens the myofibrils. Okay, and all happen at the same time. Okay, now thick filament and thin filament both are present in the sarcomere. This is a thick filament formed by many myosin units. Myosin looks like what? Golf club, very good. So it has a head and a tail part, right? On the head, this is important, you have sites, binding sites. How many? 3. Site for actin, site for ATP, and site for ATPH. ATPH. Okay. Now, we'll see the thin filament. Thin filament is formed by double chain. 2 chains are together. That is the thin filament. And the chains are formed by actin molecules, okay, or balls. So these are actins. Remember, all these structures are protein, formed by protein. Okay. Now, on actin, you have binding sites. On actins, you have binding sites for what? Sites for myosin. On actin ball, you have only one binding site, okay? This is the binding site on the actin ball, and this site is called site for myosin. Okay, site for myosin. Okay, now let's see what happens during contraction. So I am drawing again. This is the myosin, and let's draw one actin. So this is the actin. This is myosin. Okay, actin and myosin. And on myosin head, you have site for actin, right? On myosin head, you have what? Site for actin. This is site for actin. So let me draw here. This is site for actin. This is interesting. And on my actin ball, you have site for what? Myosin. Make sense? So this is for myosin. Make sense? So on myosin, you have head. On myosin, you have site for actin, and on actin ball, you have site for myosin, right? So they have site for each other. Is it clear? This is site for myosin. This is site for actin. That means what? They're supposed to get attached, right? Because they have site for each other. They love each other, right? So they will get attached, right? Those two sides will bind. But there is a problem. In normal resting condition, in relaxed condition, what happens? A rope-like structure, it is also a protein. All these are protein structures. That is called let me use a different color. A rope-like structure covers the actin ball. Keep them separated. Keep the actin and myosin what? Separated. So the myosin head cannot get attached to the actin ball. And this protein rope-like structure, like a rope, this is called tropomyosin. So tropomyosin is a protein rope-like structure, rope-like protein structure that separates the myosin head and actin ball. Keeps them separated. It's like, a boy loves a girl, okay, and somebody is in between, like, preventing them, keeping them away, okay. So the myosin head is this, right, and actin ball is this. But who is separating them? Tropomyosin, that rope-like structure that is covering the actins. Okay. So on the tropomyosin, this is the last protein structure you need to know. On tropomyosin, you have tiny protein structures. These are called troponins. Troponins are attached on the rope, tropomyosin. So troponins are attached on the tropomyosin. Okay. Now, this is in relaxed condition. Your muscle is in relaxed condition. Now, when the muscle contraction starts, before that what happens? Calcium is released. Calcium ion, very important for muscle contraction. Without calcium, muscle contraction will not occur, okay? So, calcium is released, and that calcium molecules will come here and will bind with the troponins. So calcium binds with troponin. Okay? And when that happens, all these troponins are displaced, moved to the side, like this. Now you see here, this is your myosin head, this is actin ball, and this is tropomyosin, that rope-like structure, like this, right? Keeping separated. Now, when the calcium binds with the troponins sitting on the tropomyosin, all these troponins move to the side. So what happens? That moves or rolls the rope to the side. Moves the rope to the side. Make sense? Now, if the rope is taken away from here, what will happen? The myosin head was waiting, right, to get attached to the actin ball. So when the rope is displaced to the side, the myosin head now will get what? Attached to the actin ball. Because they have side for each other, right? So will get attached. So that what happens? When calcium is released, calcium binds with the troponins, and troponins move to the side. That moves the tropomyosin to the side. So now this one has moved away. This one has moved away. Okay, now you see there is no barrier between. So what will happen? The myosin head will get attached to the actin ball. And that attachment is called cross bridging. So let me put here. So now what will happen? Since the tropomyosin has been removed from there, the myosin head will get attached to the actin ball. And this attachment is called cross bridging. Okay, very important. Got it? Okay, so thick filament is formed by many golf club like structures, right? Those are called what? Actin or myosins? Myosins, right? Each myosin looks like what? Golf club, right? And on the myosin head you have binding sites, right? Site for actin, site for ATP, site for ATP. Okay? And thin filament is formed by how many chains? 2.